Let's discuss the difference between HR analytics and people analytics.
Sure.
So I think the key difference is that HR is focused on the past, but people analytics is focused on the future. What do you think?
Well, let's unpack that. I mean, people analytics is an evolving field. So what seems to be the case today, let's just say that it might evolve in the future. It might be something different. But as of now, here's what we know. Every organization has an HR function, and it's supposed to contribute something to the business, some value, and in some unique ways, like finance, manufacturing, marketing, right? So the focus of HR is, human resources. So what would you say that mostly means today?
Well, three functions come to mind. The first is recruiting. So how do we cast a broad net? How do we attract a diverse pool of applicants? How do we identify suitable internal and external people? The second one would be selection. So how do we prevent discrimination and bias as we're narrowing down that pool? And then how do we identify the applicant that's going to be the best fit in that job? The third function that comes to mind has to do with turnover.
Or absenteeism.
Absenteeism, yeah. How do we document that? Can we identify factors that are contributing to voluntary turnover? What do you think?
Yeah, I always thought, generally speaking, that HR was primarily interested in reporting activity matrix, in reporting something that has happened, almost like a police function, who has done what, reporting on absenteeism, reporting on turnover, conducting investigations, recordings of what has happened.
Recording. So recording minutes of interviews.
Yeah, like men to men, men to women.
Sure.
Or who talks for how long in the meetings, and then kind of analyzing if that's fair or not. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. So if that's what HR analytics is, how is people analytics different?
Well, I think people analytics should be about the impact matrix, about what can we do to impact the future. So not just documenting the deficiencies, and HR can continue doing that, but sort of looking forward, journey in the value creation with people as the main actors, sort of endless enablement during the employee life cycle.
I really like the distinction that you drew out there between sort of HR focused on activity, but people focused on impact. So more specifically, when we think about what people variables do we identify and measure that are impacting the future in this positive way? For example, career pathing.
Yeah.
Does finding the right fit between an employee in terms of their attitude and their personality and their preferences impact their productivity? Or teaming, how do we design highly effective teams aside of the obvious, make sure they have the functional skills, upskilling. So how do we identify talent for leadership training and promotion so that we're not losing those highly talented employees that are simply getting burned out before they get into those leadership opportunities? What do you think?
Well, or would providing extra 2 hours of training impact performance, and to what extent? If you look at what was put in and what we get out, we can measure that, or measuring leadership styles and determining the best fit with the situation, Fiedler's model, or motivation programs. Do we have goals set? Are they done appropriately? Do we build efficacy, reinforcement programs along the motivational lines too?
So it really comes down to reinventing the employee experience, mixed with some kind of design thinking on the basis of data, because data really is the new currency in organizations.
Oh, that's a good one. So what do you have in mind there?
Well, I think it's so interesting, this idea of people analytics, I think has such a draw because it's almost paradoxical. You have this word people, this very encapsulating of what it means to be human. Yeah. And then you have this word analytics, which is very detached from a human experience. It's about data and it's about objects. So when you had HR analytics, it sort of translated people into objects, right? Human resources. People became a resource.
Yeah, and that's terrible. I think Jeff Pfeffer talks about that in one of his books. He says, what an awful word to use for people, a resource. Because when you think about a resource, like in econ terms, what is that? That's something you buy, you use, you expect to exploit it, and then you sell, or as your accountant say, it gets amortized or whatever, right? So it's like, hey, it was good hiring you, and it was great using you to the biggest extent. Now you're of no value to us, so just go away.
I mean, this word resource, should we really be using people as, a resource? I think when we identify and recognize that they're human, we get away from sort of this archival and archaic thinking, and we start thinking about that experience in terms of impacting the future.
And calling it people analytics.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
I could not have said it any better, as usual.